Jesus said, as the Father sent me, so I am sending you. Not just a couple of you, but all of you.
God's still calling people. He hasn't stopped. Not just to be pastors, not just to be teachers, not just to be local missionaries, but to reach all the nations.
We can do all things through Christ, but we have to choose to do exactly what He's asking us to do.
We realize that we cannot do it alone.
God calls me to be obedient, but really the work is totally dependent upon Him.
This is living. This is joy. This is satisfaction. This is reward. This is what we were created for. And it's when we do that, that yes, we'll risk certain things in this world, but we'll realize real quickly that the risk is far outweighed by the reward.
Would you welcome my friends Asa and Vanessa Watson up here this morning? Yeah! Woo-hoo. These are a little, unmute it. Here's a little thing on there. I think you're good. So I've got a bunch of questions that I sent them and asked, and Asa said, hey, do you want Vanessa to be a part of this? I'm like, absolutely. Just tell her I forced her so you don't get in trouble. But I've known this guy for several years now and been able to be a part of what he's done here in Rock Hill. I personally loved going over when you started the breakfasts over at Clinton College, being a part of that and being able to meet people. And there wasn't a lot of folks like me, pastors, walking around, but it meant a lot that you invited me and have been able to be on this journey with you guys. And for those of you who don't know Asa and Vanessa, we're going to ask a bunch of questions that some folks do know because you've been with us. You've known them for a long time, so bear with us as we catch everybody else up. And you both can answer these questions because I'd like for you to answer this as well, Vanessa. But kind of give us the backstory, where you guys grew up and what your family was like growing up, because I think that'll help as they hear the story of what God's doing with you guys moving forward. So where'd you grow up, and what was your family like?
Okay.
Flip that little switch
Okay.
up. There you go.
I'll start. Well, I was born in Arizona, and I moved around a lot. We went to St. Louis, to Charlotte, Weddington area, and then Fort Mill, and then now we're in Rock Hill. Well, my family is. And so we kind of moved around a lot. Mostly grew up in Fort Mill, and my family is, I would say, very outspoken. We're all very just opinionated. We all love the Lord, so we're very loud. We all love each other, and I think we're pretty much all very close. We can tell each other anything, so
I think I freaked your sister out yesterday at Starbucks because she was there, and I was like, hey, Victoria. She's like, how do you know me? Like, I'm like, I'm Ace's friend. She's like, oh, okay, you're not a weird stalker. Yeah. Great, awesome.
And then for me, I was born in Virginia, in Norfolk. I have 5 siblings, and we moved to Rock Hill in '96. My dad was a pastor. So we moved down here to start a church, the church that we're attending right now. And so, I got 2 parents that they celebrate their anniversary today. 40 years.
Hey, wow.
So it's been kind of just a blessing to see them still together and have pretty much all of my siblings still following the Lord. And so we're dispersed around the world. We're living in different places, but family has always been really important to us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, how did you guys come to know the Lord? Obviously it's there in your family history. But for you personally, where did that journey with God truly begin?
Yeah, I mean, for me, being that my dad, my parents, they became believers when they were my dad, became a believer when he was 15. Okay. My mom when she was in college. And for me growing up, I kind of had this shame about, I didn't have this dramatic experience of coming to the Lord. Yeah. I wasn't a drug dealer. I wasn't in the streets. Like, I lived in a pretty good family, and we had a nice house, and, I didn't have a whole lot of drama. But part of just my coming to know the Lord was that my parents discipled me through a young age, and they instilled in me just biblical principles and really just allowed the Holy Spirit to work. But now, like, I'm realizing that, like, I don't need to be ashamed about that. Yeah. Like, the Lord chooses to save people the way he does.
Amen.
And we thank him for that. So.
That's awesome. How about you, Vanessa?
Yeah, mine was a little bit like that as well. My parents, since he gave the backstory of his parents becoming saved, I thought it was really cool because my parents, my mom was an exchange student to Arizona, and so they both were invited to Bible studies one night, and like a girls' one and a boys' one, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I have something to tell you," and they both became saved like on the same night,
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And so just growing up, they were just like, well, kind of like Asa, I'm like, I didn't really have any like whoa moment that I was like, okay, coming to know the Lord. It was more so just something that was learned, and I grew up in a family that loved the Lord and walked with the Lord, and so that's kind of how I became to know the Lord.
As I've been doing ministry, I come from a background where it's like if you can't name the point and the time and the date and who is on wherever, then that wasn't a real salvation experience. And what I've come to realize is that some people do have that moment. I did. I was clearly aware of my sin. I responded to the call of the gospel. I surrendered my life. This moment, and I can remember where. But as I talk to people, I think there's two different experiences. There's the light switch moment, like I just described, but then there's also a dimmer, as I describe it, where slowly over time you were exposed to the light of the gospel, and at one point in time you were like, oh no, this is what I believe. I am following Jesus. I do want him to have my life, and it sounds like that's kind of been what it's been like for you. And I think that's a blessing to have families that have raised you in that, and hopefully that'll be the story that my children tell as well. Well, as you were growing up, what kind of ministry or missions experience did you guys have individually, in your families? What was it like? What was your first exposure to not just being a part of the church or going to church or being a Christian, but actually doing the work of the gospel? What was that like growing up?
Being that my dad was the pastor, he was also my youth group leader, and so like we had just
Had a lot of
different
sex
things,
talks,
like,
I guess. Yeah.
Actually, we never had one. We said, don't do it, okay? Don't do it till you're married. Just a talk.
That's good. That's good. Good advice.
Yeah, so I mean, my first experience to missions was just that, my parents showed it. They lived it. And, my mom, she had this love for different cultures. Like, she listened to like Gaelic music, like Irish Gaelic music growing up.
The Lord's
like,
music.
Yeah, not really. But yeah, so just a love for culture. I went on my first mission trip with her to Belize when I was in 8th grade. But then also before that, just missions was always an emphasis in our church, and local missions especially. Just witnessing and telling about Jesus to your coworkers and to your friends. And we had those awkward walk through the neighborhood and knock on doors and try to talk to people about Jesus and getting the door slammed in your face. Had all that kind of stuff, but really just seeing how they treated people and how they loved people who couldn't give anything back to them was how I saw it lived out.
How about you, Vanessa?
I think my in 10th grade, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm following the Lord.
Yeah.
Don't care what anyone has to say. And I think it was like in high school, probably like 11th or 12th grade, I just realized like the love I had just to like serve people and like be there for people and like, do you know Jesus? And so I remember starting like a small group in high school with a few girls like on my cheer team, and I mean even if they weren't, and so I think from then I was just like that love just to like have a relationship with people and like share the gospel and just do life with them, I think started around then. And then in college I was a part of lead team for BCM and went to Atlanta and New York, and those were like my first like I guess in the States mission trips. And then we went to Jamaica together and Mexico. We took our kids, so I don't know, all that I guess came into play of we just wanted to continue to go with it.
That's great.
More and more.
That's awesome. You just mentioned going to on trips together and taking your kids. What has that been like as you've experienced ministry and missions together as a married couple? You grow up in this doing things, and then you're united with someone, and you can't just tell them what to do if things are going wrong in the mission field. There's a whole emotional connection there. What has that been like as a married couple, as parents on the mission field? What has that dynamic been like for you, and how did that continue to foster that flame in your heart for going out with the gospel?
Our first trip was as a dating couple in college.
That's dangerous.
And, yeah.
Well, I think we actually had just broken up.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
even
that
better.
that was even worse. Yeah. So it's still.
We're on a
it
break.
was-
Let's break up. Let's get on planes and go to another country together.
Yeah.
Yes,
it
that's
still worked
actually
out.
exactly what
We had already paid for it because you couldn't go back. By then. But yeah, so we went to Jamaica together with a team my senior year of college, and then after that we went back a couple years, taking some BCM students and a student from Clinton College, and so like that was kind of like our first as a married couple going back and then being able to lead a team and show them, okay, this is what God is doing around the world. It's not just in America. It's God is working everywhere.
Yeah.
And also to expose people to just missions in a different context. Having kids with you is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a lot different.
Tell us. We got a couple pictures, I think, of your kids. Tell us their ages and their names. You got 2 daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's you guys and a little family pic there.
Yep. So that's Selah in the yellow. She's 4, and then Lana's 2.
Right now, currently, and so you have taken them on the mission field already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took them to Mexico last year. We took some students. I don't know if there's any here, but we took some college students to Mexico, and just help serve with a team that was my second time going, but just help serve them and just kind of do ministry around the city. But what I've learned to realize is that short-term missions is kind of a means to an end. You take these experiences and you go for a week or two, and you see what God is doing and you're exposed to it, but then you kind of have to make a decision, like, okay, are you going to keep going and coming? Or for me, it was like I saw how hard it was to go and then leave,
Yeah.
and then have people, when are you coming back? Are you going to come back? And then for me to realize that, like, maybe God's calling you to something more. Maybe it's an actual commitment. And I just saw how like giving a full long-term commitment is when you see real change.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just that 1 week, even though it's good. And they serve a purpose. But I think it's the point to just something else.
Vanessa, what's that process like, deciding to take young children on a mission trip like that? Like, how, as a parent, how do you process that?
Well, I feel like it was very humbling because there were times, well, one, we stayed at the BCM, like, for Mexico when we decided to take them on the trip, and we were like, okay, this will be a good, like, testing the water a little bit, see if this is, like, manageable, maybe. And so we stayed at the BCM one night, and we were leaving at, like, 3, I think, in the morning the next day. Long story short, the girls had been up for like 17 hours once we had gotten to Mexico. Then there's like a, 3-hour time difference?
Yeah.
Or something. And so, like, there were just times where they were like screaming on the plane. And then I am just like, okay, don't look at me, please. Like,
You were
this is
that
embarrassing.
family,
Like,
yeah.
I'm trying to like rock her and stuff. Because Lana like couldn't walk, our youngest one. So then that was hard, like carrying her everywhere.
She was heavy too.
Yeah, and yeah, she was a lot like fuller. So I guess like for me, I was just like, okay, Lord, like this is what you've called us to do. This is what you put on our heart. Like this is not about if she's crying, if they're sleeping, if I'm comfortable, because the call to like being on the mission field or sharing the gospel even in your own community, you're not gonna be comfortable. Mm-hmm. So there's gonna be things like that just make you realize like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do for the Lord and to like build his kingdom. And so I think it was just, I had a totally different view to it all of just trying to push them aside, love them in the moment, and then be like, Lord, help me, because it's challenging, like you said, but as of now, this whole process of like moving houses too and staying with his in-laws, it's showing that like nothing is ours either. And so we kind of just go with where the Lord is guiding us. But in the midst of it all, it might look chaotic or seem chaotic, but there's like so much peace, I feel like, through it all.
And through that chaos, through those experiences, how did you start to sense that God is calling you as a family to more than just short-term mission trips, but to the road that you're on now, to literally selling your house in the last 2 days. Congratulations.
It's like yesterday. No,
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
And selling all your stuff and saying, okay, we have 2 young children, but how did that start? How did God begin to show you that was his plan for you as a family?
For me, I think it's been a process. It's been a long process of surrendering my will to God. I realized, I think in high school, I went on a trip to Canada, and it wasn't like a service trip. It was, okay, we're going into the streets of Toronto, and we're just sharing the gospel with people. And I saw that passion that the people there had to witness to people. And I came back just thinking, like, man, I could actually do this. Like, I could actually go on the mission field. But then throughout college, I was still involved, but I started to get to this point where I wanted to make money, right?
Right.
And I knew that going into ministry doesn't always lead to that, right? You don't always have like a great paycheck and all those types of things. So I was holding on to this idea that I wanted to make money and I wanted to be comfortable,
Yeah.
and to live in a nice house and drive a car that's nice.
It works
and all that kind
every
of stuff.
time you go to it, yeah.
Yeah, that works every time you turn the key.
Yeah.
And so like I got that chance to play in the NFL, and that lasted a short time. And then I did NASCAR, and I was making good money still, but I still was pursuing this idea that I was supposed to be comfortable and I was supposed to make money, and that was my main idea. But then one day I was sitting at work, and I was like, if I just keep doing this for another 10 years, I'm gonna be miserable, and I'm gonna look back and think that I had wasted an opportunity to obey God. And when I was able to let go of that, that started a slow process of me seeing that following Christ and being obedient to him brought me so much more peace and so much more joy than having an exciting job and having a bunch of extra zeros in my bank account. Like, it's so much better to obey Christ and to do what he's asking you to do rather than to chase what you want. So.
And Vanessa, as obviously, in any calling that God places in your life, it's not just one spouse, but it's to both of you as one unit. How has that process been for you as God has revealed that plan for you guys?
Yeah, so ever since we met, I know that it's been something that's been on both of our hearts to do, to go overseas and to just love on people there and tell them about Jesus. But I think maybe a couple years ago, I was like, okay, it's time. Like, let's go. Like, let's go in the steps of going. And Asa, I remember he was just like, no, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's time yet, or we should take that step. And looking back, I'm like, if we would have went when I was like, oh, this is what I think, Because, again, it's like we both need to be ready. We both need to be on the same page, or it's not going to be a healthy walk, I think. And so I remember the end of last year, we were like, okay, let's just, I don't know, it came up some way where we kept talking about, going with IMB. And so we were like, okay, we're going to pray about it. And come January, we'll make our decision to take that step. And come January, we were like, I said, Lord, if this is time, put it on his heart and let him tell me that this is it. Because I was ready.
Yeah.
And so then he said, okay, this is it. And so since January, we've been in this super, super long process. There's a lot of stuff, but I think it's good because it shows you that the organization just really is wanting to get to know you as a person, as a family, your history, even your health. They want to make sure that they know that you're okay, you're able. Yeah, sorry. Now I'm
Yeah, no,
going
you
off
guys,
of-
and you guys are going with the International Mission Board through the Southern Baptist Convention, right? And it's not an easy process to get through. There are some serious things in place to make sure to maximize the success and the health of your family on the mission field, which is good. And some people don't make it through that process. So as you said yes in January and started that process, what has that timeline been for you guys in saying yes to going in the mission field and then finding out, okay, where are we going to actually go? And B, that's going to be home now. What has that process been like?
Yeah, so starting in January, so I was still serving with BCM. Jack came to me and he was like, okay, what are you doing? Like, what are you going to do for next year?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, man. So I knew I needed more. I knew I needed education. I knew I needed seminary education, or I was going to go to the field. And we took a visit to Southeastern.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember taking the visit, and everything was good. We had lunch with Danny Aiken, and it was terrible. Right?
Danny
so, like,
Aiken
It was
is the
so
president
bad.
of the
Danny
of
Aiken's
the
the
seminary.
president.
Like they are not bad. Like our kids just were crazy at this.
Yeah.
So
And Danny Aiken was throwing food at your children. It's
No,
really-
my children
The
were
children
throwing
were
food
throwing
at Danny
food.
Aiken.
Yes.
Like his wife was like dusting hush puppies off her shirt.
okay.
And then I had like a bottle of milk for Lana, and I opened it up and just flicked all over Danny's jacket, and like it was terrible. But
That's amazing.
But nonetheless, God was kind of showed us through that. Not necessarily the situation, but when we left there, I was like, I don't know if God's calling us to be at the school, but still pursue school, but
Right.
but in a different way. And so we found this thing called the Macedonia program, and it allowed us to get education while serving on the field.
Yeah.
And so to go to back to your question, so once we started that, we emailed IMB. They sent us questionnaires and started doing health screenings and took a ton of vaccinations and and just references and recommendations, all kinds of stuff.
And then,
Yeah.
and as all the details formulated, a destination had to be found and decided upon. How did that come to be?
So I think for me, I was thinking, okay, where could our gifts be used, or what did IMB have to? Because it was more so, where does God need us, and where the team as IMB is looking for different, just different areas that they might need us in. And so I was like, okay, well, I can speak German, and he can speak like a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish. And so for me, I was like, it would be really cool to go to Austria. Like, I have family there. My mom's family's still there. And long story short, they're like, well, we don't want to put you in places where family is, because it could be possible, like, distraction if anything were to happen. And so I was like, okay, Germany, that's like, they speak German there too. It's the next closest. And then it just like wasn't happening. So I was like, okay, like, let me get out of my head and just allow the Lord to kind of show us again where he wants us to go. So once I feel like we kind of like surrendered and we're like, Lord, just show us. I think we had to, usually people have to wait until, when was our conference? Like end of July.
July, yeah.
So usually people don't find out necessarily like where they might be going until like July or August. And then I think it was like midsummer when we just had it on our heart that like Europe, just that area was where the Lord was calling us. So we told our leader, and he made note of it that, okay, Europe area, we'll start looking for places that match, our job description and different things like that. And then crazy thing is, we had one email that came back. The first email was from Germany, and I was like, this is so crazy. So I don't know. I feel like the Lord knows your heart, but he wants to know that like you're also just open and ready for like what it is that he has for you as well. So that was just, I guess, really cool to be able to like interview with them online and take steps to going. And we were still like, okay, Lord, we still haven't been to the conference yet. We're still open. Like, we're willing for wherever. And that's just, God just kept on pointing to Germany, and we were like, okay. So,
So as you guys processed that, and you had a desire, and you, I'm sure, prayed and asked God to open doors to that, but at the same time you were surrendering, like, okay, that's what we want, but if you want something else, Lord, show us. That sounds like something you would tell anyone pursuing any kind of ministry or missions. What other things would you advise people? Because we've got some amazing people in our church that I believe God is going to call away from our church to do ministry and missions. What would you, as you've gone through this process and you're still in it, what advice would you give them in that surrender?
Yeah. I would say that the Great Commission is to all believers.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter if you're going to Kazakhstan or Brazil. Like, you don't have to go overseas to do missions. Like, the Great Commission, go and make disciples, is for everyone. Like, you can make disciples as a teacher, as an accountant, as a car salesman. Like, your job is to tell about this good news that Christ is redeeming people to himself. And so I think if we think that missions is just something that, okay, you go and do, then you're going to miss out on the opportunities that are around you.
That's great.
And if you truly believe that God is real, that the God of the Bible is the one true God, and that he is saving people, and that if we put our trust in him, then we can be saved, then you're also saying that other people won't be saved if they don't believe. And so are you taking the opportunity to share it with people? Like, even as a middle schooler and as a high schooler, like, you can still be a witness where you are.
Yeah.
You can, and I think that also starts with just pursuing Christ and revealing, just asking him to reveal what's in your heart that isn't serious about this.
That's good.
What do I need to surrender to him right now?
Yeah.
And I think that's the first step in this.
Yeah.
I think too, well, when he was saying, like, wherever you are, and for me, when he started campus ministry, we have 2 girls, and I stayed home with the girls, and so I think that was something for me that I had to learn, that instead of looking at what he was doing and like what he was like, he had set time to go on campus and let me just love on students, and like that time was set aside, I think, a little bit for that. And so for me, I was like, it's so hard. Like, I have girls, like, meeting with students, like other girls, like with my girls, it can sometimes be a distraction. I feel like, that's just personally, I'm like, well, if I'm attending to them, how am I going to attend to the girls? So I had to realize too that when the time was open for me to like meet one-on-one or like as a group with some of the girls, like, great, let's do it. And then if I couldn't, then my goal and my first priority are my own girls, and to disciple them, and even going to the park. And we were talking about this the other day of like, I can meet other moms and our kids can get together, and I can have an opportunity to maybe share the gospel with the other moms at the park. So just knowing that wherever you are, there's always going to be an opportunity to share with someone. And sometimes you might think like, oh, well, I haven't really like had anybody in front of me to share, but just pray about it, because I guarantee you, when you pray about it and you open your heart and you give that over to the Lord and ask him to just reveal someone, he's going to put people in your life. So
I think one of the things that I always admired about you guys in your time here in Rock Hill, that I got to know you, is you leveraged whatever you had, whatever time you had, for the sake of making those relationships and using the gospel in them. And one of the things you guys did was you opened your home all the time to college students. I saw it online. I met some of these people that came to know the Lord because of your investment in them. And I would use that as an encouragement to our church. I think a lot of us who have jobs and family think we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we don't have the relationships. But I was actually just challenged last night over dinner that those of us who do have homes, those of us who do have families, we can actually reach out to some of these younger college students or single people in our community, in our family, in our church, in our area, and just invite them over. Not to sit down and have a Bible study per se, but to have a meal. When's the last time you even considered inviting some of these young people to lunch after church? Just introducing yourself awkwardly and inviting them. And I think that's something I saw in you, I've been challenged by, and I know Anita and I want to do more of that, inviting people into our home and just making it a place where gospel conversations are more likely because relationships are built. And so I just wanted to encourage you guys with that, and thank you for the model there, and and encourage our church to take that that challenge as well. So as you guys are about to leave, I guess in 2 months you could be in Germany, right?
Well,
Yeah.
so
No. But
October 21st is when we leave, and then we have
Yeah.
to go train for 7 weeks.
In Virginia?
Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we leave from there to Germany.
it'd
So
be like
I guess
December.
technically
December, by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christmas in Germany.
Yeah, we're hoping to go.
Sounds like a good movie.
It
just
does,
visit,
yeah.
yeah.
Still not.
Right.
So,
Christmas in December.
what are some of the anticipated needs that you guys are? I know you're raising funds, I assume, for not just it's not just a trip, but for your support system.
Yeah.
What other anticipated needs are you guys having? I know you sold a lot of stuff because obviously you're not going to ship it over there, but as you go, what are the anticipated needs you guys see?
Yeah, so like the first need is financially we have to lower the student loan debt
Yeah.
that she had.
It's
I had a
my
scholarship
student
in
loan
college.
debt.
Yeah.
I had football scholarships. I didn't pay. I didn't,
Okay.
But
It was NC State though.
it's a great school.
I'm just kidding. I love NC State. I went to
played Notre Dame. Like,
Shut up,
last
man.
year and beat them.
It was a couple years ago. It was
Yeah.
during a hurricane, and yes, you beat us.
Yep, we were in a hurricane too.
Yep.
So part of that is we do have to raise some funds for that.
What?
And
Get
then-
specific, man. How much?
Yeah,
Like,
to
what
lower-
is the income that I know IMB says? Hey, you need to raise this
Yeah.
much or whatever it is. What is that? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we're supported through the Southern Baptist churches. So the Southern Baptist Church is given to
Cooperative program, which you guys give into. In
Yeah.
case you don't know that, you're already
Yeah.
helping them get there.
So thank you for helping to support, send us. and so like that helps send missionaries. But then also like we have to lower our student loan debt. Okay, so we have to raise several $1,000s to do that, which will enable us to go.
Yeah.
But God's gonna provide. He's
Absolutely.
already provided up to this point, so we're not worried about that.
You're doing such a great job. I bring this up because I know the tension that's got to be there, and so, like, yes, as you give regularly, we give regularly to the cooperative program. So a part of what you're giving is already going to missionaries like them. But I wanted to bring this up because if there's something on your heart that you wanted to do specifically to give to them and to their support team, I wanted you to be aware of that as a church, like, because we love you guys. Our church has got to do some ministry together, and I plan to do ministry again together. But how would someone go about giving to support you guys? Is it through the IMB website? Is it something completely different, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so you can give to Lottie Moon. If you're a Southern Baptist, you can give to the Lottie Moon Christmas donation, or you can also contact our church. So what we're doing is
Rockville Bible
basically-
Fellowship.
Rockville Bible Fellowship. And so what we're doing is that we would love to partner with other churches. I would love Grace Collective, like once we get there, once we get settled, like for you guys to maybe come with a team,
Yes.
and to do ministry there. Once we figure out what we're doing.
Anybody
and-
game for Germany?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be in Frankfurt. And so like we need prayer support. We need people who will like come alongside us and just like encourage us and send us letters and just kind of just be like our corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, be in our corner for us.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Anything on that?
Yeah, I'm so proud to know you and to have had this opportunity to become your friend in the last few years, and I'm excited to watch the journey as you guys go and to see your girls grow up on the mission field and to see that. I had the privilege of taking my oldest daughter to Haiti this summer, and it was just an amazing experience, as I'm sure you guys had with Mexico. Somewhere in there, I'm sure there was a few moments that was amazing. But we want you to know that we love you guys. We want to support you. We're going to be in your corner, no question, somehow, some way. And so I want to pray for you guys as we wrap up. And if you have any questions, they got to stick around and do this awkwardly a second time. So if you want to ask them questions, I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to pray, and you guys can make your way maybe to the chair corner over there so that people can get to you if they want to talk to you. But Asa, Vanessa, Watson, will you thank them real quickly before we pray?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me pray for you guys. Lord, thank you so much for your love, for your goodness, for your provision, for your call on our lives. Thank you for using us in your gospel ministry on earth. We are so thankful for Asa and Vanessa, their two precious children, and ask that you would provide not just what they need, but above and beyond that, so it can be a blessing to their lives and they will not be distracted or worried or find themselves anxious over those details, Lord. I believe that you could open the storehouses of heaven to provide for this, and I ask that you would do that. Give them the strength as they are living with family for the next season and as they go to their training, and then eventually, Lord, on site. I pray for friendships and relationships, and I pray for the perfect opportunities for them to show your love, your glory, and your call to the people of Germany, Lord. We thank you for this day, and we pray this all in your name. Amen.